All right, let me make sure I can hear myself. I don't know how many times I've said that running a live. Can't always tell. Okay, let's see here. Oh, look at that. You can actually hear me. What do you know? For the longest time, sound was always a challenge because if I had it playing through my speakers and I had this mic, the one that I'm using now, then I'd get feedback. If I used the mic on the camera, then sometimes it would get confused as to which camera I was using. So sound has always been a challenge. Anyway, trials and tribulations of trying to do a live on YouTube. That and believe it or not, if since we're just sitting here and I'm trying to get my head around doing a live again, the other thing is the keyboard's down there, and the chat is over here. But if I don't look up here, then I'm not looking at you. So that's another challenge that I face doing lives. It's easier doing videos because you know to look at the lens. A little insider information there for you. By the way, when I say I'll answer questions, I'll answer them all. Any question anybody has. I think a lot of people think that's kind of like cliche or something. Oh yeah, you're not going to answer that. Yeah, I will. I had a really nice comment by a couple guys on my latest video about the fact that I answer questions. And I was thinking about it tonight and I thought, yeah, well, in my lives, I answer any question. So there you go. All right. We're going to have some fun tonight, I think. I hope so anyway. I got a new battery to show you that I'm going to give away. And I've been trying to arrange something like this for a while. And it just kind of, I finally just said, all right, it's time to do it. And yeah, it's funny because I've done that sort of thing before I was doing YouTube. I used to run a website and I used to do giveaways, and so anyway, long story short, I finally had a company reach out to me that I've reviewed some of their batteries before, and they have a new one out. And it's not really that new. I'm going to show it to you right now. Oh, it's that guy right there. It's the mini, right? So the little tiny little one. I mean, these are small. So I'm going to give one of those away. Well, I'm actually not going to give it away. They are. They came to me and they said, "Hey, we got a new mini out. I know you like the last one that we sent you, and we want to know if you want another one." And I went, "No, not really. Because I don't. I've got one now. What do I need another one for?" Well, this one's got Bluetooth, and I thought, okay. I mean, I use it for my canoe, actually, right? And it is perfect for an overlanding rig. Actually, there's another one that's more perfect for an overlanding rig, but this one is pretty nice. I actually use the other one that I have that I got last year for my canoe trawling motor. I use a trawling motor in my canoe because I'm a beat up old jarhead now, and my arms just won't put up with me running my paddles all day long like they used to. And so I run a little electric trawling motor, and I can take that mini, put it in a marine battery box, and put my wallet, my phone, other stuff in there, some foam around it because it's like half the size of a normal battery. And it's kind of nice, and it's super light, super small. So, and by the way, I will get to all the questions here. So, but anyway, so Cycling Back came to me, and I went, I'll tell you what, I don't really need more batteries, but if you will drop ship one to one of my viewers, then I will take a look at the battery, look at the Bluetooth app, play with it a little bit, include it in a video. But it has to be, you have to send one to one of my viewers. So Tuesday's video, which goes out at 3 p.m., it will go out about a day earlier for members. On that video, I'm going to give that battery away. kind of. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold a little contest. I haven't completely formulated it yet, but I think I know what the contest is going to be. It'll be an easy thing. It's something like you'll have to share the video and post a comment or something where you shared it or something like that. And I'll do it like for every time you do it, you get another entrance, right? To give people who really, really want the battery a chance to maybe, get a few more extra entrances. When whoever wins that, which will be based on points and random draw. So like if the maximum points you can get is 10 points, 10 shares or something like that, then everybody that gets 10 will be put into a random draw. And I will take their address, give that to Cyclone Bat, and Cyclone Bat will drop ship you a battery. Now, I haven't fully formulated how I'm going to do it just yet. It'll be something along those lines, I think. So now the other thing is Watt Cycle wants to give you a battery too. And I've decided that if I'm going to take a look at somebody's battery, because I'm not a battery review channel, I don't really want to just review stuff. But if they want to send me one, I don't need another battery. There's only one battery, well, maybe two. There's a couple of batteries I'd like to have, but otherwise I don't need extra batteries. I give them away. In fact, I'm putting another Cyclone Bat in a charity raffle in October. It's actually a 4x4 road rally and off-road event that we run out here in Eastern Washington. I'm a vice president of a club, and I'm putting a power station and battery into the raffle. And I did that recently. I that's what I do. So anyway, yeah. So look forward to that. And as far as batteries for overland rigs, I got to tell you, I think the best battery right now in my mind and that I've seen for an overland rig is and I don't know who else makes these, but Lead Time makes a metal cased. It is a sorry, somebody's texting my phone. Throw my phone across the room if they text me more. I got put on silent or something. But anyway, so Lead Time makes a wall mountable, ceiling, floor, whatever mountable steel cased battery that's like this thick, and then it's flat. It's like a wall mount battery, so it's really flat. And I saw that and I thought, wow, you could put that on the side, of your rig or on the ceiling, or if you've got a hook road rack like I do in my Jeep, you could mount it right underneath that rack maybe. I mean, there's just so many possibilities for a battery like that that's so flat, steel cased. So if something bumps up against it, it's not going to hurt it. I mean, pretty impressive battery. So that would be one that I'd like to play with. And then the other is either a server rack or wall mount. I haven't decided. I'd like to get two 48 volt, 51.2 LiFePO 4s for my off-grid shop setup that I intend to build. So anyway, enough on that. Let me let me get caught up here tonight. I just kind of got started on a whim because I was like, all right, there's folks that are saying hi. I might as well drop in and say hi because I was just getting things set up. So so we've got what is the brand of your BA? I don't know what you mean by BA unless you mean battery, and that's a Cyclone Bat. What is the brand of your solar array at the cabin? Is it a dual? Oh, you mean of the ground mount rack, the rack that I have my ground mount panels. The brand is a home built brand, and I could improve it. The balance wasn't quite what it should have been. We didn't realize that. So I had a neighbor at the time that was a metal fab guy. I had an old metal shop, really nice guy. And so I went to him and I said, hey, I'd like to build this ground mount solar panel array set up. And we kind of designed it together. And the thing that we hadn't really thought of is I wanted it to be able to move in, bidirectional movement, so that if I put a tracker on it, right, then it would work. The problem is that we actually put the mount in the center of where the solar panels sit. So it mounts to a bearing system on top of a 4-inch steel pole, and that's right in the center. The problem is when your panels are like this, there's so much weight at the bottom that if you loosen up the bolts, it wants to go to 90 degrees straight up and down. So I really need to push the whole array up probably about 6 inches to a foot, so that they balance a little bit better. And if I could get them balanced so that, they don't want to really move at all, you could just leave it with the bolts loose and move it around freely, then it would be a lot easier to put a tracker on there. And a neighbor of mine built his own tracker without any electronics. And it was an interesting setup. And what he used, I want to say it was Freon. And so he put Freon in a pipe that is that wraps around the rack a certain way. I mean, I haven't looked at it closely. And so when the sun hits that, it heats up that Freon on one side or the other, and it causes it to shift in the pipe, which then causes the whole array to shift towards the sun. And it'll literally just track along the sun all day long. It's really an ingenious system. Of course, you can't get Freon anymore, and I don't know what material you could use today or what gas you could use today to do the same thing that you could easily get. But that's something that I've talked to him about doing a video on his movable rack, because he built that himself. And he's mostly game for it. I think he's 83 years old. He's been up there since 79, lived off the grid since 79. And in fact, I talked about his solar panels in one of my videos, because people always say solar panels are going to degrade. They're not going to be any good after so many years. Well, he had a 400 watt solar array from 79 until I think he's still using it. I mean, I don't think he's ever upgraded that. He might have added more panels, but he's still using that array, still getting decent power out of it. So anyway, I had a couple topics tonight that I mentioned earlier. Hey, g'day, Mr. Buckaroony, Queensland, nice. Well, I'd love to visit down there, but I hate flying that long. I've flown to Korea, Japan, hated it. Let's see. Currently building an off-grid system. Got great tips off you. Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you got any questions, ask away. I'll answer them. Just curious, thinking about one. Yeah. So Simple Pops. I will tell you this: the big thing that we did not do when we built that rack was we didn't think about balance. So if I were to do it again, it's a heavy rack made out of angle iron, so there's no aluminum, which is fine. I think it's durable, right? But if I was to do it again, I would look at the balance very closely, and I still maybe someday might. I don't know. The thing is, solar trackers usually are not worth the cost, right? They're generally, like, if you look at an EcoWorthy, which is probably the least expensive tracker out there, and people seem to like it. But I think I saw the dual axis one was like almost $400. Call it $400, right? Shipped to your door. Well, right now, and a tracker gets you about 25% more power, right? Some say 40%, whatever. Settle at 25, because you got to be realistic. And if it gives you 40, great. But for $400, well, I mean, you can go buy 2 500 watt panels, bifacial panels, and stick them like a fence on the ground, and away you go. You just got 1,000 more watts of power instead of 250 or 300 or 400, right? Unless you got a really big array, but then that EcoWorthy isn't going to work for it anyway. It's designed for small arrays. So trackers are great, and I think if you can build your own, then you're probably way ahead versus buying one, or by building a movable rack like I did. At least then you can adjust your panels for different times a year. Or in my recent video on my AC unit, which we'll have to talk about tonight, I think. But I was able to move the panel all day long, and just to keep it facing the sun to produce more power, because that LG that I bought definitely used a lot of power. So let me Let me go back to I've already forgot what I said. Oh yeah. Solar panels. Okay, solar panels. So I've seen this question many times. I've got a 12-volt solar panel. I when I first started buying solar stuff back in 09, 2010, I mean, I probably said exactly the same thing. I'm sure I did. But right away, I realized there's no such thing. They call them that because the voltage range of that panel happens to fall within the correct voltage if you used one panel or you put your panels in series, or sorry, in parallel, then it would work for that battery type, especially for a PWM type controller or PCM. Let's see, pulse code modulation. So pulse width modulation, PWM. As a telecom guy, I get confused on that one because we have time division multiplexing, pulse code modulation, all that kind of stuff. So it's solar and telecom have some similar acronyms. But in any case, it doesn't matter what the voltage is of a panel, and I've seen that many times. You know, I'm going to put a 24-volt system in, so I need to get these 24-volt panels, right? No. The only time you'd have to worry about panel voltage is with a PWM charge controller, because they're not like an MPPT charge controller. They won't take that excess voltage and convert it for you. They won't step it down. That's it. And if you're only using one panel, or if you're putting panels in parallel and they're smaller panels, but even then, don't put them in parallel, put them in series, right? So I mean, the question the guy had was, I'm going to get a 48-volt battery, but I only have 12-volt solar panels, and he had like 4 of them, and I'm like, you just put them in series, then you're going to have plenty of voltage, right? If they're 18-volt panels, which is kind of the typical range for 12-volt systems, would be, around 18 to 20-volt panels. But if you just put all 4 of them in series and got 80 volts out of them, you're going to be fine for 48-volt system. So anyway, I don't know if anybody has any questions about that, but it's it's just something that I see a lot. Kind of like batteries. My video Tuesday, a little insider information for you. My video on Tuesday will be about batteries, and in particular about putting batteries in series, and is it wrong to do that? Because I've seen lots of people say, God forbid you're on FaceCrack and you're looking in one of those groups there, and you're talking about paralleling or putting batteries in series, and half the world jumps up and says, don't do that. It's the end of the world. And I go, what? No, it's not. Maybe it was 20 years ago when LiFePro 4s were an experimental toy, but no, not today. So anyway, I mean, that's part of what I was thinking Tuesday's video is going to be about. And we're going to give away a battery. And then gosh, what else have I got going? I got a lot going on with the channel, and to tell you the truth, I've trying to stick to the 2 video a week schedule. I in the past, I think I did a more than a year, maybe a year and a half at 3 a week, and it just got to the point where I wasn't able to make as good a video doing 3 a week. So that's why I'm trying to only do 2 a week. But every once in a while I get something that I decide to put out. So if you're curious about that. XCNY selection is getting reduced. Not nearly as many choices as a couple months ago when I started watching. Should I be concerned they're trying to go out of business? No, I don't think they're going out of business. I had a pretty good conversation with XCNY fairly recently, because a Bluetooth app that I had access to change things on happened to also change one of their batteries settings, and it really messed me up. And they responded very quickly. So I don't think so. And I don't, I don't know. I don't really have inside scoop on battery manufacturers. So, I mean, the only thing I would worry about is if I was building a system and trying to buy 16 batteries, because I'm going to do 4 series, 4 parallel, and have 16 total batteries, and I've only got 6 of the 16 today. Well, I think what I would do is you can on Amazon, because I think they only sell on Amazon, what I would do is I would go to their store and you can message them and they will actually respond because I've done that. I would message them and just say, "Hey, these are the batteries I've been looking at getting. What's going on?" And what I can do right now is I'm going to pull up my email, and I do have a contact with them, so I will email them and just ask them, "Hey, let me." So I'm going to apologize, guys, for doing this right now on a live. But I think you had a good question. Let's ask them. So the question was selection getting reduced. Okay, selection getting reduced, and I'm just gonna type, "Hi guys, I'm hearing that selection on Amazon is getting reduced. Is there a change coming? Something new?" I'll just ask a couple questions like that, and let's just see what they say. And what I will do is when and if I hear back from them, which typically I do hear back from these guys fairly quickly. I mean, let's be honest. If any YouTuber that's got at least a couple videos with a 10 or 20,000 views, gets a hold of a manufacturer and they tell you to you know piss off or something, then excuse my language, but or they ignore you, or they don't get back to you, or they don't cover a warranty, it could take one video to really, really hurt a company. So they're usually pretty good about getting back to people. So, and I like XCNY. I actually, my XCNY golf cart battery, I kind of like the fact that it has fire suppressant in it, but you don't really need it. It's not that, I mean, in a golf cart battery, if you're going to get in an accident, maybe, but otherwise, in a house, you don't. And yes, I've seen that recent video, but I also saw Will Prose's answer to it. So if you haven't seen that, there's a video running around about a guy whose house burned down because of his lipo or his lithium batteries, or not lipo fours. But looks like it was entirely his fault, not the battery's fault. So anyway, but these companies, they'll get back to me. So we'll see how that goes. Brush Bum, hey buddy, nice to see you. Absolutely. What do I think the best brand for a solar generator? Have you watched my channel much? Because calling it a solar generator usually makes me start twitching. I start getting a twitch. Power station. A generator by definition is something that converts mechanical energy to electrical energy. So I refuse to call them. I'll put like in titles sometimes solar generator because I know that's going to attract attention. But then I'll say in my video it's not a solar generator. What is the best brand though? Let's talk about that, because I had a guy posting recently about he's super, super happy with Opus. He ended up buying a second one and now he's buying a third one. I like the Opus brand. I think that's a good company. But I made the mistake, I think, of saying, well, I think there's lots of good brands out there. And I'm going to tell you, I think that the power station companies out there are some that have really kind of done a good job, and they seem to be making good quality power stations. So Opus and Pecron are two of those. Absolutely Dabson. Right now, the power stations I'm using are the Dabsons, and I don't have to tell you that. Dabson does not sponsor me. They've sent me no money. But I'm actually really impressed with the Dabsons, and I have 3 of them now. And I'm using a Dabson 600L as my UPS for my CPAP, because I'm one of those guys got sleep apnea. I have to have a CPAP. Didn't sleep for years, didn't know why. Ever since I came back from the desert, I didn't sleep. And there seems to be a connection. The VA actually did a study that combat veterans are 4 times as likely to have sleep apnea than anybody else. So there you go. But I use the Dabson. And I've heard from other certain power station companies say, yeah, don't use ours as a UPS. I did test one that wouldn't work as a UPS, and it surprised me. And that was a Agritech. Agritech. And so for me personally, I believe that, and here's the point, I believe that some Jackery products are very good. I believe that Blue Eddy has some good products. I believe that EcoFlow has good products. I can tell you that everything from Dabson that I've tested has been excellent. Opus has good products. maybe they've had some bad reviews on the 1500. Maybe they've improved that since. I don't know. Mine still works fine. So I thought I blew it up. I thought I ruined it. I didn't, and it does still work fine. I did almost let the magic smoke out, so I was concerned about the 1500, but it works fine. I will tell you, I got two bad Jackeries and a bad Opus Mega 1 in my shop right now, but I believe that Opus Mega 1 was a factory defect, and the guy that bought it, one of my friends, will get a warranty claim out on it, and we'll get it replaced for him. He was going to the Rubicon. I noticed one of you, and I tend to be bad with names, guys, but one of you is an overlander or mentioned overlanding. Well, the club sent about 14 rigs down and ran the Rubicon, and they were in a panic because that Opus Mega 1 just quit working on them. And it had been drained pretty badly. Well, not badly, but I drain them 100% every time I test them, sometimes multiple times. This one, for some reason, failed to come back. So I think it has a bad BMS or something like that. And that can happen. So I gave them mine. Mine worked fine. And they took it down. And actually, one of them said something like, well, are you sure? And I'm like, you damn straight I'm sure. Number one, I think it's a good product. Number two, if it fails, trust me, it'll get replaced. So that's the only Opus I've heard about that failed. I don't know why it did, and I'm hoping the Opus will get back to me. I'm going to have him file a warranty claim, but I'm going to tell him and get his claim number so I can tell him I'd like to track that. I would like to know what happened so I can tell my viewers, hey, this is what happened with that unit. But it's the only one I've heard of. So anyways, as far as good power stations go, I know that the guys over at Solar Lab really like the Opus Mega 2. They like it more than the Mega 1. I know that they like the Pecron 3600. And so I think from a company perspective, is there one that's better than the rest? I don't think so. I think that there are several good companies making good machines, and sometimes they have dogs in the mix. And so you just have to research, the different ones. And if you're looking for a specific range, then I would get out there and just try to find guys that have reviewed them. But be careful with reviews. Not everybody's going to be honest with you, right? I'm willing to stand by my reviews. If I think that something failed and a company tells me they're not going to send another piece of gear or whatever else, well, that's fine. I don't care. Nine Channel's not about doing power station reviews or inverter reviews or whatever anyway. And I mean, I've flat out come out and said that my Sun Gold Power inverter, I got to put a fan on it to keep it cool at the cabin in the summertime because it gets too hot. My Ames never did. And I don't, if Sun Gold Power never talks to me ever again, oh, that's okay. It's not going to hurt me. But the reality is I went to the Overland Expo down in Redmond, Oregon this summer. I was invited to go down for lead time. They actually didn't know who they were inviting down. It's kind of funny little story, but I work with marketing people, and these were salespeople. So they didn't know that my channel is all really power stuff today. It used to be sawmilling, actually, and cabin building stuff, a little bit of cabin building, more sawmilling, but they had no idea that I built my own systems, that I worked in telecom for 30 years on DC power plants. And so I showed up down there, and they had this original plan. They were going to put this like whole thing on my head that was like Mr. Lead Time. You could get, and I was like, you're going to do what? I'm a Marine, right? Like, that's not happening. I don't know what you guys think's going on here. Well, they found out that I could answer all the technical questions that none of them could answer. So I spent the weekend answering lots of questions, and it was fun. I didn't get to go out and meet any other YouTubers. I did meet one, but he was kind of local to me. But I didn't get out very far at all from where we were because I worked the whole weekend. But anyway, the point of telling you this is, and what was I getting to? Companies. Anyway, and at one point, Lead Time, they were looking at my channel then, and they were like, why is the battery on this video, why is that a Rodeo battery, not a Lead Time? And I said, I'm not a Lead Time guy. I I'm not sponsored by Lead Time. I'm willing to look at anybody's batteries, but I'm going to tell you the truth. And the point of the story is I had people coming up to me saying, "Hey, I saw your video on this and I saw your video on that." And I realized that as a YouTuber, probably the most important thing you can do is be honest, because you're going to meet people. And when you meet those people, if you're like me, I pride myself in my honesty and integrity. It's a Marine thing, maybe, I don't know, but I was always that way as a kid. As a kid, I couldn't lie, right? I was always in trouble because I couldn't lie. But I got a funny story about trying to lie that I could tell you guys one of these days. But in any case, my view is you better be honest, because you're going to meet people. And maybe some of you watching right now met me down there in Redmond, and I met several that watched my videos. And if, from my perspective, if I give you a line of bull, well, you're not going to have kind words to say to me when you meet me, probably, right? You're going to know if it's BS. The audience knows. You know. I would say that my viewers know whether somebody's bullshitting them or not. Excuse my language, but that's my view. Anyway, I've been going on forever. Donnie Hopkins, nice to see you. I have 2 Dabson units and they work very well. I also have 2 EcoFlow units that I like as well, but for the money, the Dabson units are very hard to beat. Yeah, that's so. I've heard that. I've seen that. I can see that in what units that I have today. The one thing I've noticed is companies are also starting to move away from XT60s or XT90s or Anderson connectors on their solar. I think EcoFlow might be one of them. I was talking to a guy recently on a power station that he had, that they had changed to a DIN style, but you can get adapters for those. But I don't know. I personally would like power companies to stop that and just put XT60s or XT90s in and be done with all the other nonsense. But anyway. All right. I would not recommend Blue Eddy. Bad experience. Product died in 2 years. No real service support. Yeah, I've actually heard that. I got 2 dead Jackeries in my shop right now where I call my studio. It's actually a planer room. That's kind of funny, huh? But is it Jackery's fault, or is there a wiring issue with the overland rig they were in? And it could be that there was a wiring issue, but I don't know, like, what kind of wiring issue would take out a power station? I mean, unless it's really dirty power, maybe. That's the only thing I can think of. But Lead Time is great to work with. I would agree with you when it comes to batteries. I don't know. I have a bunch of Lead Time stuff. I bought a Lead Time inverter. I bought a Lead Time charger. I bought a Lead Time charge controller that I'm going to install in my little portable unit that I'm building, which I have some ideas to change that around a little bit. So I've actually bought some Lead Time stuff myself personally. They don't give me everything I have. I know some guys think that that I just get it for free. I'll be honest with you, I could just tell them, hey, I'd like to review that. They'll send it to me, but I'd rather buy it myself, because that also kind of gives me that 1 degree of separation. So can't afford to do it all the time, but I certainly try to do that now and then. But I will tell you that at the Redmond Overland Expo, I was stunned at how many overlanders are running Lead Time batteries. I mean, it had to be 90% of the people that came along to talk to me that just came to the booth were running lead time batteries already. So that kind of surprised me. RVers, overlanders, you name it. Let's see what else we got. Recently did my first major LFP purchase, 310 amp hours from them. Thanks for the advice. Yeah, XCNY. I mean, how many more are you looking at doing? That 310 amp hour battery is my main backup battery for my Convolt power station in my garage. It's currently not in there because I keep using it to make videos and test things. But you can't beat 4 kilowatts. Now I can't carry them around anymore because of my back. So I've been looking at getting one of those lift truck things, like a dolly, but has a hoist on it that you can lift things up to your bench. But I've actually had friends have to move batteries. So if you see me do a video on a battery that weighs 100 pounds, I didn't put it there. Friends of mine come over and they put it there, and then I give them batteries sometimes. But Anderson connectors on everything in Australia. Yeah. So there are different kinds of Anderson connectors too, but Anderson, I mean, they're good connectors. So I've got the Convolt has 120 amp Anderson plug on the back, and it's got two XT90s on the front, and then like Opus uses the little probably, I don't know, maybe 30 amp or 20 amp Anderson connectors. They all work good. There's nothing wrong with those. Yeah, and that's the thing, Simple RS. If you've got multiple brands of power stations and they all require a different connection, that's a pain in the butt. So, in fact, I actually steered a friend of mine wrong. We were setting up. So the guy, if you guys saw the video, we did the Bouge RV air conditioning unit in a tent, which really did impress me in the end. By the way, I mean, I know I think it comes across in the video, but I was like, okay, this actually works. And that was not in a tent that was very well insulated. It wasn't a canvas tent, right? If it was a canvas tent, it would have been even better, I think. And I intend to use it with my overland rig because I've got a canvas style rooftop tent. But I had told him, oh yeah, you need an MC4 to XT60, and he's got an Opus Mega 1. And then he gets it in, and I'm like, that's Anderson. So anyway, he's giving me that cable, which is nice because it's like a 20-footer or something. But then he's the one that I put the E-Taker F1000 in. And by the way, one of you asked, I think on my other channel, I've got a Jeep channel that I kind of don't do much with. It's just for me and my friends and my club. But I put one of my E-Taker videos over there, and he asked if I would look at the E-Taker F2000. And I told him, probably not. I mean, it's a little bit bigger version of the F1000. Well, anyway, I was talking to E-Taker, and they said, oh, well, we'll send you one. So I ended up, and here's the funny thing, I don't even have the E-Taker F1000. So sometimes companies put stipulations on things, like you have to keep something for so long. I don't review items that they tell me I have to keep them, because I give a lot of stuff to charity or people to help me out or something like that. So I won't do that. Well, I didn't have that stipulation, so I never used the E-Taker. We actually put it in my buddy's rig and then abused the heck out of it in his rig. And he's had it in there for a little while now. And it's in his rig every single day. And it keeps his battery fully charged. He keeps his Opus Mega 1 fully charged off the battery. He's running a 12 to 24 volt step up converter, and I think he's running like a 20 amp converter, and he's only drawn like 10 to 13 amps off of it, so it doesn't get hot. Like they all get warm, but this, I think the highest temperature I got on it was like 95 degrees. And but anyway, he's running it every single day, all the time, and loving it too, I might add. And it was going down to the Rubicon, and I was gonna see how he did down the Rubicon. Unfortunately, his dad ended up not doing well medically, and he had to cancel his Rubicon trip. So the rest of the club that was going went down, but my buddy wasn't able to go down, that I put that E-Taker in. Well, anyway, long story short, I've got another E-Taker, the E-Taker F2000. It's going to go in his rig, and we're gonna pull out the F1000, pull in the 2000 because it has much bigger cables. We want to see how hard it is to run those bigger cables, and then we're going to install the F2000 in there. It's only going to do the same power, the same wattage as the F1000 on the DC charging side, because you only get 1,000 if you have a 24 volt system. And this is in his, North American cars are 12 volts. So you're going to get 500 watts. And we don't even use that. We dial it back to like 400 or something like that, because, don't push your alternator if you don't need to, basically. I mean, his alternator can handle it. It's like a 250 amp alternator. It's a heavy duty one, so it can handle it. But if you don't need to run 500 watts off of it, don't. But anyway, so that's working well. We're going to put the F2000 in that. Then the F1000, I think we're going to give to a charity auction. But I'm also testing another DC to DC charger that I can't tell you about because it isn't even manufactured yet. And it's a company that has a good name. We've mentioned them tonight. Hint, hint. But I think it's actually, it looks pretty awesome. Cables are huge though, and it's an 800 watt unit. And so we're looking at the cable size and trying to decide, and for those that don't know, if you're into power stations, I mean, having a DC to DC charger in your rig, your car, your truck, your whatever, is pretty awesome. I mean, it turns your vehicle into a generator, basically, right? And I mean, it's a pretty cool setup. So I'm going to play with that one. We're going to install that one in my rig because that is a beta. It is not currently out for production. I can't tell you about it other than what I just told you, but it will come out, and I will end up talking about it, in a video. So, and I'm not, I'm not even a power station channel. That's the funny thing. Most of my audience probably started watching because of power stations, but I don't view myself that way. I'm more of an off-grid cabin building, cabin powering type channel, right? How do I power up extra mini cabins? How do I power up my cabin? So anyway, how long did I do in the Marine Corps? You did 20 years in the Aussie Army and have stuff back to show for it. Did some work with the Yanks down here on exercises. Right on. So let me back up and make sure I haven't missed a bunch of things, because I will answer that one here for you, by the way. So hang on. Let's see. Lead time, Anderson. Okay, looks like you got the next question anyway. So I was in the Marine Corps for almost 5.5 years. There's a joke out there that I can tell you in short that goes something like this. There was a study done, and they studied that if someone did a normal tour, a 4-year tour in the U.S. Air Force, it would take them 2 weeks to adjust to civilian life when they got out, right? If they did 4 years in the Navy, it would take them 2 months to adjust. And if they did 4 years in the Army, it would take 2 years to adjust to civilian life when they got out. If they did 4 years in the Marine Corps, forget it. There's no adjusting. So anyway, 5 years, almost 5.5 years in a brand new unit. When I joined the Marine Corps, got through boot camp, and they were handing out MOSs. That's your military occupational specialty. It's your job in the military. And I went in on open contract ordnance maintenance. And originally I was going to be a recon scout. That's what I wanted to do. It was going to be, I was going to go force recon or something like that. And my recruiter said, look, you're trying to get married. Being a force recon is not good for marriages. So I think you should do something else. And so I got a, what they call quality enlistment program. You score high enough on your ASVAB scores, your entrance exams, you can do whatever you want. And so I wanted in right away. If I could have got a different program, if I waited 1.5 years, wasn't going to happen. So I went in open contract ordnance maintenance, and that was the last job they gave out. And, bunches of us in the room graduating. I was the last job they gave out, and they didn't know what it was. And they said, well, your MOS is 2147. We have no idea what that is, but you're going to Maryland to go to school. So I didn't know. They were saying it was something like light armored vehicle repair or something like that. They didn't know what it was. Nobody knew what it was. Well, when I got to Maryland, the first thing that I noticed was all the guys I was going to school with were former grunts, all infantry guys. And they're all laughing at me. Yeah, you think you're going to be a mechanic. Good one. So I graduated school, went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, checked into my unit, which at the time was called 2nd Light Armored Vehicle Battalion. Well, the name of that unit today, after it was called Light Armored Infantry Battalion, they changed it to Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion. I ended up being a recon scout for the first 3 years I was in the Marine Corps. So I was crawling around in the mud and eating bugs and all that kind of stuff that I wanted to do to begin with. The only difference was that when we were back in the rear, I got to work on vehicles instead of just cleaning weapons and studying, Russian weaponry and stuff like that. So, and yeah, I mean, anybody that served in any unit where you had to, throw the old Alice pack or rucksack on your back and go do 30 miles, in your black Cadillacs with 150 pounds of gear on your body has a buggered up back today. Right. I mean, that's, and then I got tackled on the beaches of Morocco when I got promoted and 5 guys tackled me after I got promoted to corporal because they decided I hadn't been promoted enough, which in the Marine Corps, that means beat the crap out of you. And they separated my collarbone at the SC joint, and which is partially separated today. And that actually damaged 2 discs in my neck and 7 in my lower back. And I love it. And I would go do it all over again. And, so yeah, I pay for it today. But anyway, what questions do we have? If you've got any questions, if you haven't just figured it out, I will absolutely answer them as I just did. But and I'll try to keep on track and go back and make sure I didn't miss anything. So I did see one here. 3 280 amp hour lead time batteries from my shed, Jackery 2000. Wow. Yeah. So are you running the 280 amp hour batteries into the Jackery, or are you running an inverter off those? I'm kind of curious. And I will tell you guys, from a power station standpoint, I like power stations because they're portable. They're pretty neat. You can use them as UPS backup devices, but I'm not really a power station guy. I hate to say it. I am more of a do-it-yourself off-grid power guy. I mean, to me, from my perspective, you're better off building your own system. And there was a guy recently that posted a response to one of my videos about the very fact that he's trying to build his own because he wants to be, actually, he emailed me. And he wants to be his own power company, essentially. And I kind of chuckled and I said, that's me. I built my system. So because I built it, I know all the components. I know how they're all wired up. I know where everything is. If something goes wrong, I'm the one that has to fix it, but I put it all together. So fixing it isn't that big of an issue. Having a power station as a backup is a good idea because maybe you got to fix it and you don't have that power available. And if you have a power station that can utilize some of the power you're drawing in off your arrays, that's great. But like for me, I've got 2 charge controllers. So if one goes down, I still have another charge controller that if it's on my smaller array, I can bump it into my big array if I need to. I've got 2 inverters. I'm only using one, but I do have 2. So I could easily just swap out the inverter to, my original inverter, go back to the Ames, which I think is a better inverter anyway, and have my power back up there. So, I mean, from a component standpoint, I even have a second step down converter from 12 to 24 volts. And that was something else I've noticed is that people think that, well, I don't want to put in a 48 volt system because I want to run 12 volt stuff. But I mean, that doesn't make any sense because you just put a step down converter in and go from 48 to 12, right? We do it all the time. And the funny thing is we do that stuff all the time in our houses, right? You charge your cell phone at your house. You plug in essentially a step down converter into your 120 volt plug in the wall of your house, and it steps it down to 5 volts and charges up your phone. So you can do that same stuff when you build off-grid power systems. So anyway, I just love doing that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm looking through the comments here and just babbling on. And but again, if you got comments, throw them out there. Let's see. Great times in the military. Amen, brother. Crush Bum. Hey, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Let's see. Do you think it's a bad idea to take away the solar credits and go back to relying on fossil fuel as the Trump organization is doing? So let me tell you. I'm going to give you some inside scoop as to who I am. I am very much what you would call not a party libertarian, but a constitutional libertarian. I'm a free market, free speech, constitutional loving. I'm actually connected to the Constitution through my family. And I hate big government. If it were up to me, if someone died and made me king today, I'd fire 90% of our federal government, and I'd probably fire 90% of our state governments. And the truth is, what amazes me is that as a people, the American people keep re-electing people that lie to them over and over and over again. And I've come to say that we've been conditioned as Americans. Americans have been conditioned to vote for the best liars. And so, and I don't want to make this a political post, but I want to answer your question because I say I'll answer any question. So from my perspective, yes, I would take away every credit for everything, for anybody, for anything at all. Farm credits, you name it, I would get rid of all of them. And if I lose some viewers over my radical libertarian views, I'm sorry. But I believe in the free market. The free market actually works if you let it work. I mean, if if for example, if EVs are the next greatest thing to slice bread, well, we'll all be buying them at some point, right? That's just the way it goes. Um, and when government starts to pick and choose who the winners and losers are, bad things happen. It's actually called the law of unintended consequences. And government, you see it all the time. Anytime government comes in and says, we're going to fund this, I guarantee you there will be something that was unintended, that's bad, that will happen. And in fact, right now we print money. So people look at the inflation and they like to blame the current party or the last party that was in power. I blame them all, because the Congress holds the purse strings. So I don't care who the president is. The Congress is who puts the budget together. And they are supposed to send it to the Senate, and the Senate makes their version, and then they send it back, and they work together to come up with it. Then they send it to the White House, and they sign it or they don't. But it's the Congress that does that. And they've allowed our system to get to the point that it is today, where our dollar's worthless. It's not backed by gold. It's not backed by silver. Pull out a dollar bill and look at it. It says a Federal Reserve note on it. It doesn't say a silver note, which they used to say, by the way. So I'm a species hard money guy. I would do away with fiat currency. The fact that we have, and it's called fiat currency, that means that they have dictated by fiat. In other words, the government said the dollar bill is money and you can use it to go buy a loaf of bread. When you do that and you print money to give those subsidies you're asking about, because that's what they're doing, it causes inflation. That's why the price of things go up. And both parties do it. They're both guilty of it. So I'd fire 90% of them. So there's your answer. And as far as relying on fossil fuels, I would tell you that, first of all, fossil fuels is a misnomer. We now have modern technology to know that oil is not a fossil fuel, that hydrocarbons can be found all over the place, that the earth is continuing to produce oil. It will. Can we get it? I don't know. I'm not a geologist, but I had a friend who made his money in that industry. And he would have told you similar things, I think. But here's what I believe. I believe that when there's a better product, we will shift to it, because the free market does that. It's simple. Why do people buy Japanese cars? Because they're better? Well, not originally. Originally, we started buying them because they had better fuel mileage, and the big three could care less about whether you got good fuel mileage or not. And next thing you know, everybody's buying Hondas and Toyotas and Datsuns, not Nissan, because it was Datsun back then. And I'm old enough to remember those days. And they didn't buy, the old Datsun 510 or the B210 that I once rallied, because they were reliable cars. We didn't own Fiats because they were reliable, but they were fun to drive, and they got decent. I mean, I had a Fiat 124 sedan when I graduated high school. It was 12 years old, and it got 25 miles to the gallon. That was in 1983. I mean, my Subaru WRX gets 31 miles to the gallon if I keep my foot out of the throttle. Running in 6th gear at 70 miles an hour on the interstate, I can get 30 to 31 miles to the gallon out of it. Well, come on, man. That's over 40 years ago. In 40 years, we've only been able to increase our mileage by that little amount. But that's still better than if you were driving a Camaro or some big Nova or whatever, right? Or my F-350 dually diesel pickup. So, people, the free market will drive people to whatever is the best source of fuel. Is fossil fuels an issue? Well, I can tell you that the earth warms and the earth cools and the climate changes. And we are learning so much today. I can tell you that they don't know. Anybody that tells you that they can predict the weather 1,000 years from now hasn't looked at the weather app on their cell phone lately, because how many of you have pulled up the weather app on your cell phone and you're like, it's going to be 90 degrees tomorrow, and tomorrow it's 85 or 105, because they can't predict the weather tomorrow. So there's a joke out there. You've all heard it, right? Being a weatherman's the only job you can have where you're wrong 50% of the time and you keep your job. So I still have 12 of you watching, so I haven't lost everybody. But there's my answer to you. hopefully, hopefully that helps you out, Chad. I don't know. You let me know. All right, Mr. Buckaroni. I use the Blue Ready Charger 1 to trickle power from the 840 amps of batteries into the Jackery. But I can also use my 3000 watt inverter and not worry about the Jackery. Yeah. So that's a well, you can do both, and the beauty of that is that you can then pick the Jackery up and move it around if you had to. So I think that's kind of what I was saying about my off-grid setup. I almost always, in fact, pretty much always bring a power station with me when I go. And so somebody asked earlier what I think the best manufacturer is. Well, I mean, the one that I like to carry to my cabin the most is probably my Pecron E1500 P or LFP 1500, because it's got rubber handles and rubber corners on it. It's really durable, and I like that because I know I'm going to bounce it around and bang it into the side of the truck and throw it up on the deck, and it's probably going to get dirty. And so, yeah, and it's a good unit, but I like it because of the ruggedness of it more than the electronics of it. I mean, they all seem to, all the ones I have, you know, the Opus, the Pecrons, I've got a Jackery. The only one that I would say that I've got that I simply do not recommend, and that's one called a Go Neo. I bought it because it was cheap. It was a Go Neo 604 for like $280. I think you can get them now for $200. And I don't like it. It tends to cycle on and off a lot when I try to run a refrigerator with it. It actually, the refrigerator battery, because the refrigerator also has a battery. It's a portable, like an overland fridge. That battery actually drains while the whole thing is running on that Go Neo. And I'm like, how the hell does that happen? I mean, it doesn't even make any sense, right? So don't get a Go Neo unless you're just desperate and only have a couple $100. It does work. It just doesn't impress me very much. My Jackery 550, actually, it works fine. I just know of a number of them that are broken, so I know that it'll probably quit working at some point or not. Who knows? But anyway, I like that functionality of those. All right, what else do we got? Now that we've delved into politics, not really. I don't like getting, I mean, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna bore you all to death here right now. But my family's directly connected to the Constitution and the creation of the country through a family called the Otises. So I'm a descendant of James Otis Jr. And if you look at a picture of James Otis Jr. and me, you'll be like, why did Eric put a wig on? What the heck, Eric? What are you doing? You look funny in a wig. I've put up pictures of me when I was 17, side by side with Otis, and the truth is, if I shave, because I was lazy today. I don't know if anybody caught that. I always usually shave. I didn't today, but if I shave and stand, put my picture next to his picture, we really look a lot alike. Different nose, and there was maybe one other feature. I think his eyebrows are arched and his nose is different. Otherwise, it's a spitting image of me. I look at the picture and I think, what the heck? I'm gonna show it to you. I'm gonna pull this up. Who's ready to see a picture of me and one of the founding fathers? Actually, the funny thing is they don't call him a founding father, and they should. The British tried to kill him, and they made him infirm, and as a result, he kind of fell into oblivion. But his best buddy was this guy you've all heard of, and his best buddy's name was Samuel Adams. And Sam Adams was not a prominent figure at the time. He was one of the two guys, that was a leader of the Sons of Liberty, and but the other one was James Otis Jr. And James Otis Jr. was a firecracker. He was a talker. He was a firebrand, and people just, he was the leader of the Patriot Party. In fact, John Adams called him the spark that ignited the American Revolution. And the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution comes directly from him. And there's his picture here. I'll just put his. Let me put this other picture up. This is going to blow you guys away. I find this picture. I'm almost there. Here it is, right here. So this is me when I was 17 years old. On the left, and that's James Otis Jr. back around 1760, around there on the right. Tell me that we don't look a lot alike. I mean, obviously he's in a wig, he's older, a little fleshier like I am today, smaller lower lip and pointier nose, but I mean, it's almost a spitting image. Eh? So what do you think? But yeah, so anyway, directly connected. I grew up with that, in my household where, man's home is his castle. That's James Otis Jr. Taxation without representation is tyranny. That's James Otis Jr. That's in the family blood. So I'm a small government. I say get the hell out of my life type person. I believe, and actually, I'll tell you this, and this is not a political channel. So again, if you got questions, ask them, folks. But yes, John Reyes. Hey, thanks, buddy. Yes. Let me get to some questions here if there are some. I see lots of questions. Okay, I'm gonna stop ranting about politics and the American Revolution. Although I love that stuff. No tax credits or subsidies. Amen, brother. Right there. You and I are 100% in agreement. Let's see. We are at the end of an ice age. We are warming again. So, yeah, actually, that's true. And it's often forgotten. We still have polar ice caps that are completely covered, and they have completely melted multiple times in the past, many, many times. And that's it. There's a cycle, right? Ice age, lots and lots of ice, and then it starts to melt. And then, maybe dinosaur farts. I can't even speak tonight. Caused it. So anyway, we'll move on. Devil dog, simplify, brother. Let's see. I plan on using a generator to supplement my solar power during the winter. Yes. Do I use a generator? Yes. Did I build an enclosure for it? No. So if you have not seen my generator, let me remove this. I'm sure that you've seen it. Let's see here. I will show you my generator. So I'm a telecom guy, and we dealt with remote sites all the times, and all of our sites had batteries, and the batteries always died. And I don't care what we did, we could not keep those batteries. We could not keep them from dying. They just die, and it's insane. And so always we had battery backup or generator backup. I'm sorry. There you go, right there. Generac EcoGen 6kW, and it's not been covered since I put it in 2013. Has hundreds and hundreds of hours. I don't even know how many hours, because when I got that generator, they had a problem with the control board, and I had to have the control board switched out twice. So between 2014 and I'm going to say 15, I had 2 new control boards put in, and I actually ran that generator quite a lot in the the winter of 13, 14, and then not as much in the summer because I didn't need to, more solar, right? And then again in the winter of 14, 15, a lot, because I was living out there. I lived out at the cabin for over a year, and then I was there all the time because I managed the area. And so I used to go up a lot of times. I'd go up for work and be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then I would head home, where I also had an area. So I managed a huge area of the state for the phone company, and so I would travel around a lot. But yeah, so and I've never had it covered, but that generator is designed to be outside. I do have a friend of mine, well, an online friend, Mountain Dawn on Country Plans Forum, put out his drawings and design for a kind of a doghouse shelter for a small portable generator. But from my perspective, if you live in a northern climate, or anywhere where there's a winter and it rains and snows, or anywhere where you get a lot of rain and it's cloudy, then your solar production drops considerably. And in where I'm at, December and January, my solar production, my batteries or my charge controllers never go to float pretty much the whole time. So they go into boost, they get into absorption, and then they shut down. Solar production is next to nil. And unfortunately, with my roof mounted solar panels on the cabin, let's see, I'll put this back up here. So you can see here the roof mounted panels on the cabin, the porch roof or the deck roof right below them tends to build up snow. I can get over 3 feet of snow on there, which pushes the snow back up on the panels, and of course they're just going to shut down. So what I am doing is this year I'm putting in some roof type ice melt tape across the roof, so that when I'm out there and it's building up out there, I can plug that in, run the generator, and get the snow off the roof, and have better access to those panels. But that is a hazard with roof panels mounted like that with the deck roof right underneath them. But to me, you just can't live without a generator for sure. So all right, where are we at here? Using a generator. Let's see what else. Was there anything else to that question? Yeah, I will tell you this. I get questions about generators all the time. I am a firm believer that you can't go wrong having a generator. That's just me. Yes, that resemblance is kind of crazy, isn't it? Isn't it funny how we went to war over taxes and now are taxed more than any other country? Well, we're not taxed more than any other country. I'll tell you that right now. I lived in Canada for 20 years, and the Canadians are far, far overtaxed compared to us. Our taxes are high, sure, but the Canadians pay about twice what we do. So yeah, we do pay too much in taxes. But the reason we pay too much in taxes is because we've allowed our government to get big and bloated and spend money on all kinds of insane things, and we haven't stopped them from doing it. And we don't have the intestinal fortitude that our founders did. Didn't they have goatees in 1776? No, and I didn't in 1976 either, or 1986. Let's see. Just joined, saw you were live. Hey Dan, nice to see you, buddy. What state am I in? No, it's not. You're not ignorant. No problem. I don't always say I'm in Washington State. Born in Oregon, raised in British Columbia, Canada. So if you ever hear me say right, process, progress, you'll hear it sometimes. That's because I grew up in British Columbia, but I guess I'm an Oregonian by birth, and I currently live in the high desert in Washington State, which most people don't know, that most of Washington State is not green. I always joke it's the Everbrown State. It is not a green state by any stretch of the imagination, folks. Oops, wrong one. All right. Yes, I am in Washington. Chris has got it. Look at that. Lots of guys have heard me say that before. Try living in Australia. We get yeah. Oh yeah. No, Australians absolutely. Look, any of the British Commonwealth countries, they have those high taxes. Because that free stuff, free healthcare, and don't get me started on free healthcare. I spent 20 years in Canada, and I have relatives there now. So, all right, let's see. I thought you were Canadian. I thought I heard it. Yeah, you'll hear some Canadian once in a while for sure. Agree. Yeah, generators absolutely a must. What else we got here? Boy, we've run through. We've gone from the 1700s to present. We've had a political discussion. Why Oregon is just having pine trees? No, sir. Nuh-uh. Here, I'm gonna. Okay, let's see. Since I'm having fun throwing up pictures here, let me see what I've got here. I have to think about this, guys, because there's plenty of pictures of that, but I don't know what I have locally, so I have to think about what I have of the local area. Oh, I know exactly what I can show you. So if you've never been to my other channel, my Jeep channel, then you will not have seen some of these pictures. And so let me see if I have some of these. Oh no, I know what I've got. I got pictures. Hang on, guys. It's gonna blow your mind. If you think that Washington State is the evergreen state, because that's what they call it, right? And the world, I mean, I've traveled all over. I've been all over the world. People believe that Washington is this evergreen state. Well, this is springtime in the desert, folks. This is half an hour from my house, and those are sand dunes. You can't quite tell. You can kind of tell, but they've got some scrub brush, scrub grass, sagebrush in the foreground. That is a lot of Washington State looks like this. So it's really funny. But we always say there's two Washington states. There's the left side, which is over from the Cascade, the mountain range, the top of the Cascades to the coast, right? We call that the wet side, and then the dry side is from the Cascade to Idaho, and a lot of it looks like this. Now, the north central area and heading over to Spokane, and that area is more arid pine forest, like my cabin. So that's where you see this kind of stuff, which is really arid pine forest. There's not much underbrush. It's very dry, 14, 15 inches of rain a year, mostly pine trees. If you go to the coast, it's super, super wet, and you get a lot of cedar, Doug fir, spruce, all that kind of stuff. So it's really diverse. If you look at Washington State, it's crazy. Oregon's the same way, right? Oregon, a huge, huge portion of Oregon is very, very dry desert, rattlesnakes and sagebrush, just like Washington. But if you get over on the coast, that's what most people think of, right? Lakes and streams and rivers and greenery, and it's just beautiful and green. And I'm always amazed when I go over to that side of the state at how green it is over there, because I'm used to it being out here. And again, right, this is kind of what I'm used to. So and that's called the Juniper Dunes, and it's half an hour, maybe 40 minutes from my house. And as you can tell by that picture, it's obviously not, it is not green. And that was probably in the spring too, right? So springtime, it's a little greener out there. You go out there right now, and it ain't green like that right now, let me tell you. Not at all. The Battle of Athens, Tennessee. Now, isn't that, if I'm not mistaken, I'll put that back up. Isn't the Battle of Athens, Tennessee, when the governor and a local sheriff tried to steal an election, and they kept the ballot box in the governor's mansion, and the people that were a lot of veterans got pissed off and took up arms, and they literally had a shootout, and eventually they proved that the governor was stealing the election. I think isn't that the Battle of Athens, Tennessee? A couple of Yanks that follow my YouTube channel. One is in Oregon, one in Colorado, both ex-U.S. Marines. Okay, there's no ex-U.S. Marines. That's number one. There's no ex-U.S. Marines. Once a Marine, always a Marine. We're not former, we're not ex, we're still Marines. We just ain't serving anymore. Two, I got to tell you, you can almost always tell when somebody is from one of the British Commonwealth countries. Canada, the Canadians do it. They call us Yanks. The funny thing is that in the U.S., if you called someone from, say, South Carolina a Yankee or a Yank, they'd get upset because they ain't Yanks. and if you really think about it, the Pacific Northwest, none of that area would be considered Yanks. Really, that's a Civil War thing, north and south, which would be the eastern part of the country. Anyway, but I know the Canadians, I grew up that way, actually. I was a Yankee in Canada, and damn proud of it too. Pretty much, but it was added. Yes, pretty much, but it was at the jailhouse. Wait, you were in jail? What did I miss? Hold on. Oh, the Battle of Athens, Tennessee. Yeah. Oh, so it was at the jailhouse. Okay, maybe the movie they had it at the governor's mansion, unless that was the jailhouse. God, please don't call me a Yankee. Yeah, see, I told you, them's fighting words in certain parts of the country. Too many Yanks in South Carolina. Doesn't that make them carpetbaggers? Or would that be more? Well, no, South Carolina, they'd be carpetbaggers, right? Georgia, South Carolina, that area. We're having fun tonight, folks. It's a good thing we can do this. By the way, I've had this sitting here in front of me. Let's see, can I do that? That's my new sticker, which are not available. So I don't know why I'm showing it to you. Well, actually I am, because I have some members out there that I have a whole list, and I'm getting ready to grab those envelopes up above me and put 2 of these in for each of those members that responded to a video. And I'm going to tell you guys, when I do this battery giveaway, one of the things is I'm not going to tell you, it's not going to be that easy. I'm not going to put it in the first 30 seconds of the video. So there's going to be, you're going to have to find it. I did one before though, where I had people, you had to go to another video and get something out of that other video. I'm not going to do that this time. I think this time I'll put something in the video, somewhere in the video, and then you'll have to share it or something like that. So, and for those that are too late to the game, I'm giving away a battery. Right. Well, this is it right here. This guy right here. Well, this isn't the one that you're going to get, but this is the new Cyclone Bat Mini 100 amp hour 12.8 volt with Bluetooth battery, and they're going to send it to you. So if you missed that in the beginning of tonight's show, or live or whatever we're doing, then Tuesday's video, I'm going to be doing on batteries in particular, not necessarily that one, though I will cover that one in the video, but the video is not about that battery. And then I'm going to tell you how you can win one of those free. You don't have to pay for anything. You just got to do something. So we'll be giving that away. The battery that charges the power station in one of your videos, does that battery need charging as well? Yes. So that's a question I've had a lot. And so thank you for asking that, Anthony. I like questions, by the way. So yes, now that in that video, what I was trying to show was how you could extend your power station in either an emergency or camping, overlanding, whatever. And in fact, one of the things that I had done much earlier, probably, maybe even the previous year, is I had taken a 100 amp hour LiFePo 4 battery and a 24 volt converter, so 12 to 24 volt step up converter, and the correct plug-in, little connector for the Jackery 550, and I plugged that battery into my Jackery 550, and I ran an 84 quart Smittybilt portable refrigerator for like 4 solid days before the battery died, and then I could run it for another day on my Jackery or 2. And the Jackery is only a little 550, it's like 512 watt hours. And it worked really, really well. Now that battery was completely drained, so now you'd have to have a way to drain it. But the object was to extend the ability of whatever power station you have to run something, for longer than otherwise. Once that battery dies, there is a case in certain power stations where you can charge it with the power station, but that's a whole different can of worms. For the kind of setup where you're plugging the battery into the power station through the solar input, then it's not going to charge unless you plug a charger into it. And of course, the best way to do that, if you're dealing with an outage type scenario, right? You're trying to use this as a means of keeping your refrigerator and your freezer running. Well, the best way to do that would be to get some solar panels and a charge controller, in my opinion, or a generator and a charger, or the other option, which is a great option, is a DC to DC charger, and hooking that DC charger up to your battery and charging it that way. But you are going to have to charge that battery. The only way to have one of those that isn't is something I've done with the Opus Mega 1, where I took a Opus Mega 1 expansion battery cable and I cut the end off. And there's a video, I've got a video out there doing this. I cut the end off, put ring terminals on it, and then connected it to a LiFePo 4 battery of the same voltage, which is very, very important. And then I can charge that battery at the same time I'm charging the Opus Mega 1, like off a generator or something, and extend the life of that Opus Mega 1 considerably. But there are some things you have to think about when you're doing that. Carpetbaggers. Nice. It's good conversations tonight. We just say Yanks. Yes, I know. Trust me, I know. Yep, nothing meant by it. That's true. Oh, and Brits or Poms. I haven't heard that. I think we just call them Brits or Limeys. Limeys. I think we call them Limeys sometimes. We call the New Zealanders Kiwis. Yes. Sheep shaggers. I had some Kiwi friends I used to play darts with They eventually moved back to New Zealand, but great people. Paul and Nikki, super awesome. And I'll tell you, they could outdrink anybody. That was crazy, but good stuff. Oh, there he is. Hey, Dane, Simplify brother. Can't speak tonight. Send me the link to the free gear. So if you're a member, then there's a member video. And you just got to watch the video. And in the video, I tell you how to get it. Or just send me an email, and Dane, I'll get you one anyway, because you comment so much. Maybe I'll do that, and I might do that for somebody else too. Mr. Buckaroony, the South always catches hell. It's okay, Mr. Buckaroony. Oh, the new little Blue Eddy Elite 100 is a great little unit for camping. Just being released in Australia. I just use it to run Starlink Mini and charge stuff up via 12 volts. So is it 100 watt hours? For me, anything under 1,000 watt hours today, unless all you're doing is charging cell phones and maybe running Starlink, because my Starlink only uses like 24 watts. It's Starlink Mobile. But otherwise, to me, I can get 1,000 watt hour power station like the Mega One. And I was thinking 5,600. The Dabson 600L did me really, really well, and I do like that one. It's super light and small, so I use that as my laptop charger. So 5,600, I guess, would be the real minimum, unless you're trying to run a fridge, and you better step up, in my opinion, anyway. Just look for I could probably put a link in here for you if you want. That one's a crazy one. I really thought that they would never ever reach out to me again. I was certain that Opus would be like, yeah, we're not sending you anything ever again. You're done, buddy. We don't want to talk to you anymore, because I hacked their stuff big time. I added 5 kilowatts to an Opus Mega 1, and then explained how I could add 20 kilowatts to an Opus Mega 1. And I figured for sure that Opus would be like, you're done. You're done. Oh, here you go. I'm going to send you a link here. All right, ready? Here we go. Coming at you. Let's see if that worked. Did it not work? Oh, I'm going to give some memberships away tonight too, wasn't I? I forgot. I said I was going to do that. All right, let's go. See if I can figure out how to do. Oh, there's top fans. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to give some memberships away. Come on. Remember how to do it, Eric. I don't do it. Right there. There we go. Boom. Let's see who gets a free membership tonight while we're waiting on that. Okay, so there you go. I shot the link out to that video. Hopefully that worked. Worst case scenario, adding a LED to the solar port with a battery bank for extended use time equals good solid device. We recharge later once the all clear is called. Yep. Yeah, so you could use LED. I do have guys ask about using LED a lot, and I always caution them, because people don't understand that LED batteries can't really take the punishment. But you're right. You're 100% right on that. Mr. Buckaroo, 1024 with an 1800. There you go. That's exactly. Then that makes sense. It's just funny that they call it a 100, but I'm not as familiar with Blue Eddy. Blue Eddy's terrible, though. I'm going to tell you this. I'm not saying their equipment's terrible. The company, they're not as good as the others. They, like Anchor Solix, have reached out to me before, and then I don't hear anything from them. And one time I had someone reach out to me, and she's like, yeah, we'd like you to review a product. And I'm like, well, that's great. I'd love to. And I was like, it's funny, because I was, Kim or whoever had emailed me, and she was like the third person that did. And then I never heard back. Oh, well, I'll look into it. Then I never heard back from them either. And I was like, whatever. You guys just don't. I don't know what the deal is there. Huntsville, Alabama, started using a Power Queen battery hooked up to my Opus 1500 to extend the use like you showed in your videos. How much longer would this extend the cycle with 12.8 100? I'm confused what you're asking me. So a 12.8 volt 100 amp hour battery is 1280 watt hours, and the Opus 1500 is basically 1500 watt hours. So you're not quite doubling the capacity by doing that. On the Opus 1500, I can't remember what the solar port input is. I think it was 600 watts. So, you know, as long as you're not using more than you can draw off the battery, you're going to give it almost double the capacity that it had to start with. So hope that helps. Let's see. Mega One just for the surge at 4,500 watts, 800 watts. Yeah, no, I mean, I got to be honest with you. There's one other power station that, in my opinion, has them beat right now, and that is the Dabson DBS 2100 Pro. But the Opus, for the price, it's like half the price of the Dabson, so that's a big deal. It's about half the price. It's got a good inverter, 800 watts of solar, and hackability that a lot of them don't have, right? I mean, the fact that you can get the cable, cut the end off, and dump 20 kilowatts of golf cart batteries into it. I could run my cabin for days on that setup, actually, right? I mean, so I like that. That little Opus is a good little unit. And I've seen some pretty good sales on those too. Let's see. The little Blue Eddy can only take 20 amps via solar, 1,000 watts. So I have to use my camping solar panels in series, not parallel. So, well, 20 amps is fine. I mean, but 1,000 watts, 20 amps, 1,000 watts. I mean, so that's 50 volts, right? I'm guessing that it must have like a maybe 60 volt limit then. Because I mean, the math is really simple, right? If you do amps times volts, that gives you watts, right? So 50 volts times 20 amps is 1,000 watts. So if it's limited to 1,000 watts, it's probably got 60 volts. Yeah, that's what I figured. I just saw your answer right there. Yeah, that's actually fine. That's not 60 volts is fine. I mean, the thing is the beauty of those is that those are really designed to use bigger panels, right? You could get a couple 400 watt bifacial panels, put them on a rack, and plug that into your power station. And that's the thing that I think a lot of power station users haven't maybe realized yet or haven't transitioned to, because those portable can't speak today, those portable foldable solar panels, so potable that's portable and foldable combined. Try to say that fast. Those are expensive. They're expensive. They're prone to damage. Although I will tell you, the one that I use all the time is AFRI. I really like my AFRI 400 watt solar panel. It's a little low on the voltage at 26.5 volts, though that means I can use it with just about anything I've got. But it's light. I like that. And I have a new one that I might be getting soon. It's a pretty cool new design, so it should be interesting to check out. But the one thing I think a lot of power station folks don't think about is, you could get a big 400 or 500 watt solar panels, a couple of those. And like I could literally take my ground mount solar array that's 615 watts and plug that into a lot of power stations just by taking the MC4s coming off the back of the solar panels, plugging in the connector and dumping it right into the solar port on any one of those power stations. So for example, if I wanted to use an AFRI P210, which is limited to, I think, 30 volts, well, all I'd have to do is run those panels in parallel, and I could run them in there. Now they would be too high. They would provide too many amps because they'd be about 34 amps. But the truth is, the power station doesn't care. It would just pull 20 amps and get 500 watts all day long. I mean, and that's just over paneling. Versus, say, an Opus, which I think 80 volts is the maximum. So I could take the Opus Mega 1, take my solar panels, run them in series, and plug it into the Opus Mega 1 and get all 615 watts plus. No problem. Power up that power station just fine. So that's something that you can always do. You don't have to use their portable panels. And if you're closer to some of the big centers where guys like Signature Solar, A1 Solar, Sun Elect, Backwood Solar, I mean, there's tons of them out there. And I mean, Amazon, their prices, I think, are starting to come down a little bit. So they're getting more reasonable. but even Amazon's, I think they're still pushing 50 cents to a buck a watt. Like if I saw Amazon at 50 cents a watt and I could get one panel, I'd probably buy it, but I could cut that in half if it went to Signature Solar. It's just that I'd have to buy 10 and find somebody else to buy them with. Cold Country, Northern Michigan, about the Pecron E1000 for the built-in heater. Yeah, that's a great thing. That's one of the things I like about my Convolt 4000 built-in heater. Sits in my garage. When it gets cold, I don't care. The heater's going to come on and warm it up. Same as my camper. I've got 2 heated LifePro 4s in the camper. As long as I keep it plugged in, it can be cold. It don't matter. 10. Yeah, you've got a big battery bank. Yep. No, your system's well thought out. It's pretty good. Yeah. Oh yeah. 382. Wow. Mega One. That is awesome. Yeah, I bet. When I saw that price came out, I think it was was that their Amazon Prime sale price? I think that was a heck of a good price. Dane's down in he's in California, Stan. Okay, why? Oh, I don't know what that was. Okay. Let's see. Did anybody get those gifted memberships here? Let's see. I need to see. It didn't show me. Let me see if I can figure out who got those. Johnny Reyes. Hey, look at that, buddy. You got one. Davidson's All Natural Jim got one. Craig C, Argent GRB, and Village Homestead. All right, let's do 5 more. I can only do this once a month, but it's kind of fun. And so for these memberships, all it does is it gives you access to the members stuff that you get if you're a member. Chris P, Forbo, Robert Harper, Tina, yeah, right on. Awesome. Very cool, guys. You're quite welcome. That's cool. I'll tell you, I don't get to choose. I wish I could. It's totally random, but I'm wondering if they've fixed it so that they start trying to include some people that are on the lives, because I noticed that it seems like a bunch on the live actually got them. So that's really cool, guys. So all that is, so the memberships, just kind of to let everybody know, members get to see videos early, because I try to get my video produced, get it edited, and get it out the door at least 24 hours in advance. Now, I used to try to do faster than that, but if I try to, then I tend not to do as good a job on the video. So I try to not, rush too much. So it'll go out about 24 hours in advance. So members get a chance to see it earlier. That's the first thing. 2, if I make different edits and I decide not to use a certain edit of a video, I will often leave it out there for members only so they could see those ones. A lot of times they're longer because I'll be honest with you, YouTube, if you have to get a certain percentage of viewers in order for your videos to actually get out there, right? So an example is if I do a video that's 20 minutes long, but people only watch 5 minutes of the video, then YouTube won't bother sharing it very much at all. And so it's not going to get a lot of play. If you watch 50% of a video, well, that video might get 5,000 views or 10,000 views or something like that, depending on the topic. If you watch 70% of the video, it could get millions of views. And so whenever I produce a video, I try to go back through and say, okay, you repeated yourself 27 times here. Come on, Jarhead, because I do have a tendency to do that. It's the old teaching thing, right? So I've done a lot of instruction, both in the military and then later in technical training, where I've been the instructor, and you tend to repeat yourself a lot when you're teaching people things. So I find that I'm like, okay, you don't need to say, like in my latest video, if you watched it, I probably said butyl rubber tape like 37 times. And I thought about it afterwards, like I should have edited some of those out, for crying out loud, right? So anyway, a lot of times members get to see those. And then there's other stuff. I will share things with members where I'll pop up on my community page and maybe put a little video, or maybe I have a video that you haven't seen yet. In fact, there's one out there right now that you might not have seen, and I'm going to share it with you now. And it's a non-monetized, it's an unmonetized video that is, I put it out on the cabin. It's just some drone stuff. And a lot of times I don't put those out the regular way, just because I know that it's not going to play well with everybody. So not everybody wants to see a cool drone video of where the cabin is. And but if you want to, I just put that out there now. It's actually probably in a playlist, so people will stumble across it. But a lot of times, if I do that, I put out a video like that one that's unlisted. I'll let the members know, because normally I would just put it to members only. But sometimes I leave it like that so I can share it. Because if it's members only, I can't share it to other people. They won't be able to see it. So anyway, there you go. And for the rest of you, I do it whenever I do a live on another month, then I give away more of those memberships too. So Anthony, you haven't gotten yours. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, buddy. I try. Let's see what else we got. A lot of good content shared in the membership forum. Thanks, buddy. And Dane, you need to send me. You need to go to the members video and email me so I can send you you got to email me your address. Let's see. What is your other channel concerning Jeeps? Oh, that is the old Jarhead off-road. If you look up, let me do this. I can pull up a separate browser and I can pull up, it up over there and I can share it with you. It's not a real active channel, just so you know. Let's see here. Let's see, the old Jarhead. Let me try this. I think it's called the old Jarhead off-road. I always forget what it's called. Nope. And of course, my other browser I'm not signed in on. So let me try to find it for you. Let's do this, and I'm going to find it for you, and I'll share it to you. So the old Jarhead off-road. Off-road. Yeah, it's the old Jarhead off-road. There we go. So the content out here is more like if I go do a run, with the club, we go to the dunes, we do a dunes run, or we go do a BDR or something like that. For those that don't know, a BDR is a backcountry discovery route. Then I'll put it up there, and sometimes I put more effort into those, sometimes I don't. So the video's not always the best quality. It's my fun channel. It's just for what I want to check out, stuff I'm doing in my Jeep or something like that. You'll see that out there. Your videos are great. We explain all the tricks. What we can do plainly. DoD teaching at its finest. Army aviator here. Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Do I get bears at my cabin? Wait, there's more. Okay, so since I've been showing you guys pictures tonight, let's answer the question as to whether or not I get bears at the cabin the easy way. Let me go and pull up my pictures. Oh, right there. I just had to look for the folder called bears, and we'll throw this one up for you first. So that is that was around 2013. Now I want you to notice carefully this picture right here. You'll notice there's a smoker up there. There's a barbecue, right? Okay. Hold that thought, because let me see if I can find the other one. Let's see here. Pictures. I have to find the basically to put it. Let's see. Oh, here we go. There we go. There you go. So you must not have. I think on a live I talked about this. I was at the cabin probably 2 years ago, and it was in the summertime, and it gets really dusty. It's dry, very dry in from mid-July until when it starts to rain mid-September to mid-October, and super dry and dusty. And I go up there this time of year and box blade in fire breaks around the cabin. I try to knock it down to dirt all the way around the cabin. Driveways all right down to dirt. I run box blade up the edge of the property. I mean, I'm cutting in fire breaks all over the place, because this is forest fire country, right? And Fires, we have too much fuels. Don't get me started on fuels, but we get too much fuels in the forest because we don't log anymore. And so because we shut the fires down and we don't log, that combination means we get to have lots of smoke. Which, by the way, in the 1800s, they used to have a smoky season out here too, until we started logging in the 1900s and made it so there wasn't one. But anyway, so I was out getting all dusty, dirty, and whatever, and I said, I'm gonna go have a shower. I'm gonna go take a shower, right? And so I'd already taken my shirt off. I laid my gun on the table. I didn't have a camera, because if I had a camera, I'd probably have a video with 1 million views already. And I go out to the back room where my hot water heater is. Now, at that time, I didn't have the entrance that I do now, right? I've got kind of a storm shelter. Excuse me. I've got kind of a storm shelter entrance going into the back room. And so I had to lift off this roofing off the back of it and pick the door up and take it out and climb down into the back room and adjust the hot water heater because it was too hot. And it's bad, right? You go to try to have a shower and it scalds you. It's a cheap Mary hot water heater that I'm going to replace with a new one that I got a couple of years ago, and I just haven't done it yet. So anyway, I go back out there, and I'm just gonna go back into the back room, and I start to pull the roofing off of the entrance to the door, and I catch something just out of the corner of my eye, and I turn and I look, and not 25 yards away, there's a black bear charging up the hill at me. Right? You're like, so, I mean, I grew up in bear country. I just go, God, get out of here, and I start yelling at him. And he immediately turns and goes running down the hill away from me. And of course, I always joke that it's because he saw this crazy Marine with his shirt off who's stark white. So he's like, because, I got nice tanned arms and that's it, right? Farmer's tan from hell. And I think he was like, whoa, dude, just back off. I'm out of here. And the bear takes off. And so I called my wife. I'm like, Darcy, didn't say anything. I'm like, where the hell's my wife at? Because, if the bear was mauling me, I'd kind of want somebody to come out and shoot the bear, maybe, right? So I go in the cabin, and she's in there listening to Neil Diamond. And she didn't hear a damn thing. I'd have been dead out there laying on the ground unless I fought off that bear, but I didn't have a knife or anything on me. So it would have been teeth and nails, and he's got bigger teeth and bigger nails than I did. Fortunately, he went, that's a crazy Marine. I ain't messing with him, and he took off. So yes, I get bears at the cabin. Cougars too. I've been followed by a cougar all around out there. Pretty crazy. That, I grew up in bear country. What time are we getting to? Oh, we're not doing too bad. Absolutely love how you help us with questions and answers without making us feel like idiots for asking. Well, thank you for that. Honestly, I there's the old saying, the only dumb question is the question you didn't ask. In the military, because I'm a Marine, in the military, they really drive that home. And I think it's important to understand that, because if you don't know something, well, you're not going to learn unless you figure it out on your own. You ask somebody. So ask. And I think it's fair. I mean, you can't expect people to know everything. I don't know everything. And, and there's nothing worse than asking somebody a question and then they're sarcastic. I don't like sarcasm. I'm not into that. I'm always explaining to people that sarcasm is actually not what they think it is. It's mean. A lot of people think it's funny. It's actually not. But look up the definition. It's not good. But yeah, so I think it's important that if you've got questions, I want to answer them. I've always been that way. I will tell you the truth. I grew up that way. Mom was a research librarian and my dad was just really brilliant. And, I mean, you were expected. If you didn't know something, you bloody well ask. That's what you do. So you bet. Let's see. I knew using Power Station makes learning easy. Well, I'm glad I do, guys. I appreciate that. And hopefully I'll convert you from Power Stations to do-it-yourself power someday. Because I'll tell you what, once you go that way, you're never going to go back. Yeah, I love bears too. Just not, when they're eating my barbecue and charging up the hill at me. I grew up around bears. So I'm going to tell you a story. First of all, folks, bears are dangerous. And black bears are more dangerous than people realize. They think that grizzly bears are the only dangerous bears. Well, I grew up in British Columbia, and in BC, the amount of people attacked by black bears is like probably 1,000 to 1 compared to grizzly bears. I mean, maybe not 1,000 to 1, but it's a huge difference because black bears have a smaller territory. They have like maybe only a mile square territory. So if you invade their territory, they're territorial, they're going to defend it. Grizzlies have big territories, and unless they're hungry or you piss them off or you scare them, they could care less. You're not likely to see them anyway. They just mosey on their own way. People that usually get mauled by grizzlies are, they feel threatened by them. They've got cubs, or they're on a kill or something like that, right? Well, black bears too, and there's lots more of them. So they're definitely dangerous. But I lived in a town for 3 years called Ocean Falls. And Ocean Falls, we used to joke that the population of Ocean Falls was 999 people and 1,000 bears. And if you look up Ocean Falls on the internet, you will find out that it's about 360 miles north of Vancouver, British Columbia on the coast, and there are no roads to it and no roads out of it. You can get there by boat or plane. It's a ghost town now. I think there's 25 people living there, but there was 1,000 people when I lived there. And the bears were all over the place. And my mom was a teacher. And at that time, she was a research librarian later, but she was and earlier, but she was a teacher at that time. And she had to go to school and teach. And she always left earlier than we did. And there was a bear on the porch. So my mom, now you have to picture this. She's the quintessential librarian. I know I said she was teaching, but she was mainly a librarian. 5 foot nothing, 120 pounds, soaking wet with rocks in her ass pocket. Quiet like a librarian, shh. And she's out on the porch with a broom, poking it at the bear, going, "Shoo, bear, shoo, bear, shoo, bear." And the damn bear ran away. And I'm like, what? So anyway, I've had bears. I mean, I could tell you bear stories, folks. I mean, I actually tried to do it on a video once, but I think everybody doesn't believe me. They think I'm crazy, but it's true. I lived in some bear country like you wouldn't believe. So anyway, let's go. Damn bears. I'm telling you, I've decided that one day I need to have a bearskin rug and eat some bear ham, but Hey, Terry from Wenatchee. Off-roading and your cabin are great subjects. Absolutely. So you need to come join us. Aren't you the one with you got an FJ or a 4Runner? I'm terrible. I forget. You got a Toyota though, I believe, right? You got to come out. Look up Rattlesnake 4x4 on Facebook. And we got a rally in October that you're going to want to be in. And I'm putting that all-way 2,000 watt hour power station with 30 amp plug. That's going in that for a raffle. And I'm going to put a Cyclone Bat Group 2400 amp hour battery in the raffle. And for those that don't know, we're doing it for Friends of Disabled Veterans, which is a charity. So it's to help that charity out, which is a really good charity. Is that a small grizzly? No, I know it kind of looks that way. That's what we would call a cinnamon black bear. So it's a black bear, but he's just cinnamon in color. And I have other pictures of those guys. They're just, most black bears are black, but you do get these brown ones. They call them cinnamon bears. And yes, he destroyed that barbecue. We did actually use it for some time after that, though. I just bent it back and put it back together. That smoker I continued to use. That's what he's licking. He's licking the water bowl out of the bottom of a Weber bullet smoker. And he tried to clean that smoker for me, I guess. And little bugger. Well, they would go in and they would move so at the time when I lived out there, I had HughesNet internet. And I had like a DirecTV or Dish or somebody like that, because I lived out there alone and worked in town an hour away and would commute back and forth. And in the wintertime, you leave in the dark and you get back in the dark. And so, you got to have something to do. Internet and television. I didn't watch a lot of TV, but, there's only so much internet I could do. And one day I got home and the internet didn't work. And I was like, oh, crap, and so I'm messing around. Couldn't figure out what was wrong. So I got a ticket and the guy comes out And I don't know, like a couple days later, probably. And he's like, well, your dish is out of alignment. You got, maybe a bear came and moved it, or a cow or something. And so I was like, I got a game camera that's pointed over that. I went and looked at it, and sure enough, that's a small bear cub that was up licking the dew off of it or something. And he moved that dish out of the way so that, I didn't have any internet for a little while. And let me see. I probably have at least one more. Now there are some bigger bears out there, and the state has decided that they should put some grizzlies in the area, but we don't have them yet. This guy was he's a fatty. That one there, I mean, I'm guessing that's probably a 300-pound bear. The black bears up here are not that big. Vancouver Island had black bears at 600 pounds. Ocean Falls had them at 600 pounds. Monster black bears. In fact, Vancouver Island is known by hunters as the place to go. And so yeah, we got them out there. But I've got cougars out there too. And in one of my videos from the cabin last year, I would, every once in a while I do cabin videos where I put some game camera stuff in there. And there was a cougar that was probably not 30 feet from the deck, walking behind a nice fir tree that's there. And, just right there. And I've actually had a cougar come up on that deck before I put the roof on it. So back in the winter of 13, 14, probably 14, 15, and look in the window while I was reading in front of the wood stove, and I didn't know it. I'm I got my head down in a book, I'm reading away, but I was getting up every 45 minutes to go turn the solar panel on my well, because my well is totally separate. It runs on its own power. It's got a 190 watt solar panel that feeds into a maximum power point tracking well solar charge controller that then provides the power to a 24 volt SureFlow pump and pumps all the way up to a cistern. And I'd let the cistern get kind of low. The rats had chewed the wiring to my float valve, which, you live out in the middle of nowhere, that happens. And so I was going out every 45 minutes, turning the solar panel into the sun and getting a little more water, pumping done. And I noticed all these footprints. And every time I went out, there was a new track of prints out there. And I could see that they were cat tracks. And so anyway, the last time I went out and I came back, heading back from the solar panel, which is about 100 yards. Well, no, not 100 yards, probably 75 yards from the cabin. I noticed the tracks went right up onto the deck, right up to the window. He had looked right in the window at me and then jumped down off the deck. Probably I moved or something. And so he jumped down off the deck and got out of the way. Never saw him. lots of tracks, but never saw him. So, I mean, I don't know, but it appears to be a small brown bear. Yeah, no, they're just black bears that are black. That's all. Oh yeah, he trashed the place. They will. Let's see. I was ready to think that the only stupid question is the one you don't ask. Yep, that is true, buddy. Raised to think. Okay. Raised to think the one time I use voice recognition, either the same can't understand myself. Voice recognition is dumb. I've got a Ford F-350 dually Lariat. Right? Like, I mean, we're talking expensive truck. And when I bought it, it wasn't as expensive as they are today, but they were still expensive. Most expensive thing I'd ever bought, actually. But I needed a big truck to carry my camper and pull my sawmill, because I used to go out into the woods and sawmill, I'd just be in the middle of nowhere making logs for some guy to build a cabin somewhere or something, right? And that thing has, the voice recognition stuff, like, you could try to get to it. Never knows what the hell I'm saying, ever. And I think I speak pretty clearly. My wife and I be driving down the road. We said, it's like, just get rid of it. It's stupid. It doesn't work. All right. Black bears. We got them in northern Michigan. You should never, ever underestimate them. Amen. That is absolutely true. I like to have high-speed lead delivering devices with me. Grizzly bears eat black bears. Yes, they do. Yeah, that's true. Hey, South Georgia, Joe Main, nice to see you, buddy. By the way, folks, Joe Main, if you need sawmill stuff, that's the guy to talk to. And you might be asking yourself, sawmill? You've been talking power all night. Yeah, but I've run a sawmill forever, and since I've been doing pictures, I don't know how many of you know Here's an interesting question for you guys. How many of you know that I built my YouTube channel running a sawmill? I wonder how many of you know that are on here today, because I'll bet a lot of you don't realize that I actually was the most active sawyer in Eastern Washington and built my channel running a sawmill. All of that lumber you see right there is lumber I made on my Wood-Mizer sawmill. And I get my bands from Joe Main. So Joe has been around my channel for a very long time. Super good guy. And I always, whenever he pops by and says hi, I like to say hi. That's my sawmill setup. So, and you're probably thinking, wait, how does a sawmill tie into off-grid power? Well, the reason I ran a sawmill was so I could build my off-grid cabin. And I'd started building the cabin on store-bought lumber, but decided it would be better if I just started making my own lumber. And so I did. Now, it wasn't this sawmill. This was a later one that came along. But anyway, so there you go. How many knew? I want to see. Put it in the chat. Tell me if you knew that I ran a sawmill. You're like, wait, what? Yeah. So I'm broken today, but I love nothing more than being out in the woods making lumber out of logs for cabins and barns and fencing and you name it, and working hard all day long. So it kills me that, I still have my sawmill, and you'll see it in videos occasionally because I still will be making lumber for my cabin build. But that's why I'm doing more in power these days, because my back has told me that I'm done full time running a sawmill. Aussie accent, recognize. I bet. I don't doubt it at all. That's right. I love making lumber. Gulf Coast, 150. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll still kill you. 150-pound black bear. People don't understand it. I'm going to tell you guys something about bears. For those that don't know this, bears are stronger than you can ever imagine. They could rip the door right off your car. And you've probably heard that before. But have you ever seen claw marks, like bear claw marks, in the walls of a dumpster? Like you've seen dumpsters, right? Those steel bins on wheels, and people throw their garbage in and the garbage truck picks them up. Yeah, well, I've seen claw marks in the dumpster, like through the steel. Bears are incredibly strong. And I mean, people don't realize that. Where I lived on Vancouver Island, I'd be driving along and there'd be some stupid tourist parked on the side of the road, standing outside of the car with their kids, with a mama bear and two cubs, probably not 30 yards away, taking pictures, going, "Oh, look at the cute bears." And I'm going, "They're gonna eat you." You're all now. I'm down to 23 viewers right now. They're probably like, "Wait, what is this sawmill crap?" I was here for the power station, damn it. And Joe Main showed up, and all of a sudden we started talking sawmills and bandsaw blades. Ever tried a small wind generator at all to charge your batteries? So I have not. I'm going to be honest with you. I've looked and looked and looked, and people say, "Yeah, there's this one. Yeah, there's that one." I have yet to find one that I feel that for the money, it's worth it. So first of all, I run a 24-volt system. So if you get out there and you're on Amazon, most of them are 12. Now, some of them are 24, but the numbers they claim just don't look realistic. If you go out on the internet and you go to actual companies that sell windmills that are bona fide, actually produce good power, they cost a lot of money. And I could get 10 new solar panels for the price of a decent windmill. So as much as I would like a windmill, because I really like the idea of power production at all hours, day and night, if there's a breeze, then I don't get a whole lot of wind, but I should get enough. I just haven't seen that there's one that, for me, I feel like is good enough for me to take the risk, because I don't have a lot of money. So I don't work. I'm retired essentially. I'm a busted up old jarhead, so I live on my VA pension now. And so I look at a windmill setup that's maybe $400 or something, and I think, well, I mean, is it really going to work for me? and I would love to do it, but until I find something that I'm pretty confident it's going to be worth it for me to get that and try it out, I'm probably not going to spend money to go buy one just yet. Now, if somebody that makes one like EcoWorthy or somebody like that wants to send me one, okay, but I had them reach out to me once, and when I told them that I just have to be honest in my reviews, they decided not to send me the windmill. So my view is, if you want me to do a review, you got to let me be honest. If I can't be honest, don't send it to me. They didn't. So, John, all right. Hey, I love to hear that there's still people that like to see the sawmill content. I'm going to be doing more. And the truth is, we felled over 120 trees at the cabin this May, and I haven't been able to get back there and work since. But I got a little news for you. We are going to hit it hard starting as soon as the weather dips a little bit. This is a hot time of year, and nobody wants to be up there when it's 95 degrees out. For one, it's just too dangerous. You're not allowed to run a chainsaw most of the time this time of year until September. You don't even pull your saw out, except for maybe in the morning at certain times. If it rained, it's a bit dewy, it's wet. Otherwise, it is dangerous. So you just don't do it. The forest gets so dry. We used to say, if you have beans the night before, I'll try not to cuss and swear too much. If you had beans the night before, you probably didn't want to be out in the forest because you'd start a fire out there, right? So, but we will get back to it. I've got lots of stuff. I got D-logs to make. I got 2x8s, 2x6s. I got 1 1/4 inch stuff, all kinds of stuff to make. Yep, mama bears are definitely short on patience. Absolutely. Watching you saw logs on that portable mill is hypnotic. Nice. Awesome. Terry Hamilton. Terrell Hamilton. Sounds familiar. So I guys, I actually started this channel probably 15 years ago, a long time ago. But I wasn't doing it like I am today. I mean, it was just, I started it for my grandsons and just to show them grandpa running a tractor or grandpa running a sawmill or something. That's how it all started, by the way, for those that haven't heard that story. But fascinating. Batteries, power stations, windmills, bears, sawmills. Oh yeah. I know. The one thing I can promise you, I saw something once, a guy was saying about YouTube, about creating channels, like stuff, because I would watch a lot of these things on how to be successful. I'm one of those driven people. And he said, ask yourself, what is your variety channel? And I started laughing. I was like, well, I got that. It might be too much variety because I know a lot of people want to see solar power stations. And I struggle with that because I'm like, man, I like to do power. I'm doing power in four-wheel drive. So here's an example. I told you earlier that we had a bunch of rigs go down to the Rubicon. Well, one of my friends has a Toyota. It's like an 84 Toyota pickup, four-wheel drive that they just rebuilt, customized it, long arms in the front, all kinds of cool stuff. And his wife gets cold, and she really needs heated blankets. She's tiny little thing. She gets cold, and so she uses heated blankets, but they just didn't have the power to do it. And I said, all right, look, buddy, here's the deal. I got a Pecron DC to DC charger. You can have it. Put that in your rig, and then here, take this, the E 1500 LFP. Take that, and that's going to give you the power you need, and you're going to be able to charge it up all day long. Run a refrigerator, run your wife's heated blankets. So I set him up, and I'll talk to him afterwards, and probably do a little video footage and talk about how it worked for him. So I like to do it all, right? Like for me, it's whether you're camping. Overlanding, which for those that don't know, overlanding is essentially, it's kind of camping in you are camping, but the mission is more getting somewhere that you want to get to and then staying there and then getting somewhere else you want to get to and then staying there versus just going somewhere and spending the weekend there, right? It's a little different, but I love it. I love to drive and I love to get out in the middle of nowhere and see the mountains and all that kind of stuff. And if you've got sleep apnea like I do, you got to have a power station. And honestly, nowadays coolers suck. I won't have a cooler anymore. I threw all my coolers out because portable refrigerators are where it's at. And if you have a portable refrigerator and a power station, you're set, right? It's awesome. It's a great way to be. But for disasters, guess what? It works really good for that too. So you can have an off-grid cabin, you could survive a hurricane, like you got all this possibilities. And so I like to kind of just delve into all that stuff and make lumber for my off-grid cabin, because for me, mostly it's about the off-grid side of things. So if you ever wondered why I do all those things, now you know. 500 watt, 24 wind turbine, a Vivor, huh? Yeah. So I saw a Vivor. I didn't see a 24 volt one. Believe it or not, I did a review for Vivor on a planer probably a year and a half ago. I still use that planer today, by the way. It still works good. I like it. But they're kind of a company that there's not really. Vivor is more like a conglomerate. Like they get other companies to make the stuff and then they brand it Vivor and sell it. And so I'd be curious, you know, I mean, there's probably no way of knowing who built it, but I'd be curious how well it turns out. The planer that I got from them works great. I still use it today. And I know they've done some other 24 volt stuff, like a trolling motor for boats and things like that. So I'd be curious, you know. I mean, the thing is for me, a windmill has to be able to withstand some heavier winds if you get them. It's got to be able to produce power at low, you know, wind, like, you know, 1 meter per second or whatever. You know, I mean, really low, because I don't have a lot of tons of wind at the cabin. But if I could get one that produced even 50 or 100 watts overnight, you know, in 10 hours, well, there you go, right? 1,000 watt hours. So, I mean, I think it would be worth it to explore that. I just haven't found one yet. So I'd be curious to see how that goes. Do you, so Mississippi, do you have a YouTube channel that they're going to review that on? If you do, drop your channel in here. Just drop it in the chat. Let me know. Trail Dogs Bluegrass. I love bluegrass, by the way. I love all music just about, but I do love bluegrass. I have a Dabson 300E, so I'm not familiar with the 300E. What would you recommend for a solar panel that I can get to charge at 12 to 30 range, 6 amps or less? Well, you could absolutely. So 6 amps or less? Is it a let me, my math brain isn't working, so let me pull up my calculator. 6 times, I'm going to go with 25. So is it 150 watts of max solar? Because I mean, 180 would be 6 times 30, so I know it's not that. So it's either 100 or 150 watts, right? I mean, 6 times 12 is 72. So it sounds like 100 or 150 watts. Let me look up the Dabson. I mean, I'm that's not one I'm familiar with. As far as a panel goes, I can tell you that I over paneled my Dabson 600L with my AFRI 400 watt solar panel, and it worked great. Okay, so that's the miniature version of my Dabson 600L. Okay, let me have a look here. I'm gonna find out what we got here. Solar. So where are we at on solar charging? I'm trying to do this quickly because, you know, it's rude for me to be staring at a computer screen. But I always say I'll answer any question. So, I mean it. I will go and research for you right online. Oh, here we go. Specs. Finally got to them. Took me a minute to get to it. Input solar max is 120. Okay, so 120 watts. So let me go here. Now I can probably pop a link out for you here. Let me just see what they have. Because though I will say this, those power stations that are in that 30 watt range, oh, there you go. I got one for you right here. I'm thinking the problem with those is there's not a lot of companies making these foldable solar panels, if that's what you're looking for, in that 30 volt range. And, you know, so you need one that's in like 26.5 volts. So let me see what this one is. I hate it when they don't tell you right off and you got to go find specs. Just tell me right away. I want to know what it is. 21.5 volts, 9.3 amps, 26.5. Okay, I'm going to do this here. I'm going to send you this. I don't get a dime if you go buy one. I do actually have an affiliate program with them, but I'm not sharing an affiliate link. I'm just sending you a link. So that right there is a 200 watt panel. Now you might think, wait, I'm limited to 120, but that's okay. It's called over paneling. I really like my AFRI 400 watt foldable solar panel. I've used it quite a long time now. It's, if you ever see me put out a foldable solar panel, I did it in one of my Dunes videos. I did it up in Canada. It's always that one. It's super light. It's consistent. It works great. I've had no issues with it whatsoever. So I'm confident that if you were to get their 200 watt version of that panel, then not only would you get 120 watts charging all the time, but you'll be happy with that panel. So that's the one I would recommend right there. If you're looking for a portable, if you're looking for a non-portable one, that would be a little different. I'd have to go and see what, rigid panels there are, but that's what I would get. Jackery Explorer 1000 V2 that has a flaky solar charger. Jackery. They agreed to replace it. Oh, good. Very good. But haven't heard a word about it being shipped since. Jackery is now on the shit list. Yeah, so I have got a couple broken Jackeries. They're not mine. They're a friend of mine's. And they basically told him, even though they were only 2 years old, well, that's too bad. We'll give you $150 towards a new one, if you want to buy a new one. And I thought that was kind of crappy of them to do that. So I know that Jackery makes some good stuff right now. I'm not trying to disparage them, but I've heard too many people say, like Blue Eddy, I know that I've heard some bad things about their support. Jackery, their support hasn't been the best for people. So now I know that a lot of these companies, they just don't have the best support, or they're overseas somewhere and it's hard to get them to help people out. But I think there's no excuse for that. Hopefully they do fix that for you. I mean, and I think, isn't that the new one, the V2? And that's supposed to be a good unit too. I want to say Solar Labs did a review on that one, and I think they liked it, if I remember right. Maybe someone else has seen that, but all right, what else we got here? Let's see, where are we at? Oh, we've been going for, can you believe we've been going for 2 hours? So my relative, James Otis Jr., who the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution comes from, he gave a speech for 5.5 hours on the writs of assistance in a court case. So I tell everybody I come by it honestly. That's my green juice. I used to drink bourbon when I was doing lives. I can't drink bourbon anymore. So now I was drinking green juice from Costco. Stuff's actually pretty good. All right, folks. I'm gonna say that I'm gonna cut this off here pretty soon. So what questions do you have? If you have any, what do you got for me? Yeah, 120 watts. I saw that, but that 200 watt panel is going to give you that 120 watts all the time. In fact, if you go look for here, I'm going to help you out. I've got a review on the Dabson 600L, which I use every day now as a UPS. And I ran that with a 400 watt solar panel. And tell you the truth, it's only rated at 200 watts. So I'll drop a link in here for you if you want to check that out. But it's called over paneling. So while I'm not a big fan of over paneling on off-grid systems that you build yourself, because I think that's kind of silly in the sense that just put a second charge controller in, because you can do that with those. But when you have a power station with one charge controller and there's no way to add another one, then putting a panel that's bigger than its rated incoming wattage actually works really, really well. As long as your voltage is below the maximum, that's the key, then the unit's only going to draw what it's going to draw. So if it's rated at 120 watts, it's only going to draw 120 watts. But the beauty of putting a 200 watt panel in is that when the panel's only producing 120 watts, you're going to get it. When it's producing more than that, you're still going to get it. And so, if you had a 100 watt panel and it's just not hitting the sun perfectly, you might only get 50 watts. But if you got a 200 watt panel and it's not hitting the sun perfectly, you'll get 100 watts. So you're going to be charging up better, faster all the time. So over paneling on power stations, great idea. Maybe I should do a video on that. Who wants to see a video on over paneling power stations? Might have to do that. All right, what else? The only problem with the green juice, if you're drinking it on a live, is that it's got a lot of fiber in it. It's like all these fruits and vegetables, and I usually drink them in the morning, but I was lazy today and I wasn't drinking it. But they, if you get the dregs of the drink, it starts to choke you up a little bit. So water and green juice instead of bourbon. Life sucks, doesn't it? Get old, get ulcers. You can't drink bourbon. Man, I love my bourbon too. Statesman was my favorite. Okay, yes on over paneling. Okay, I should do that then. Entertaining, useful. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. What else we got here? Yep, that would be a good video. Okay, I'll do one. Let's see. I've got Tuesdays is on batteries, series and parallel, but not just putting them that way, but just dispatching with rumors. I don't know what I'm doing for Saturday's video, but I do have videos I have to do. So I might put a Thursday video out this week, maybe just for over paneling. We'll see. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do an over paneling for sure. Absolutely. Sunday night up there, isn't it? Should be on the hard stuff. Yeah, the body won't let me do it anymore. Sorry. Trust me. I generally get about 75% of a paddle's claimed wattage more in the winter. Yeah, so I'll tell you something. I've got over 100% of a panel's claimed wattage, but panels are more efficient the colder they are, and they have to be aimed perfectly to get their rated power. And I think that's one of the challenges. So if you've got rigid panels, right, like the regular solar panels, and they're clean, and they're aimed perfectly at the sun at solar peak, then you should absolutely be able to get 100% of their rated wattage. If you're not getting 100% out of them, something's wrong. Either the panel's not, maybe the panels are inferior or something else is wrong, because you absolutely should. Now, one of the things I've seen is maybe somebody has, some 18.5 volt panels. I refuse to call them 12 volt panels because I don't believe in that. But maybe they got some 18 volt panels and they're 75 feet away on 10 gauge cable. Well, you're not going to get 100%, not because of the panel, but because of your insertion loss or voltage drop over the cable. So that's one thing that people don't always necessarily take. And I'm not saying maybe you know that already. I would imagine you do. But a lot of people new to solar don't realize that the further away you put your solar panels, then either the higher the voltage needs to be of the array, or the bigger the conductor size of the cable that you're running from your panels to your charge controller, because you're going to get voltage drop. And the accepted maximum voltage drop is 3%. Though, you can get away with more than that, or, ideally it would be less. But that's something that if you've got 12 gauge wire and you're 50 feet away on an array that's at 18.5 volts, you're going to lose like 6% of the voltage coming off that panel, which means they're not going to produce maximum power. So, and again, they got to be aimed perfectly in the sun. They also need to be 70 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So that's one thing about solar panels. Solar panels are rated by their max power output, but that's usually at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, at perfectly perpendicular to the sun at solar noon. So, you're only going to get it at a certain point in time during the day. And so when you build an array, you got to always bear that in mind. So like I say, I've got over 2,400 watts of solar. I'm only going to get 2,400 watts at a certain point in time. But you collect almost like a bell curve, right? So you don't get anything when it's dark, and then the dawn hits and it starts to climb up in production until you get that solar noon. And if your panels are aimed just right, which my ones on the roof of my cabin are not, they're at 45 degrees. They really need to be in the summertime at about 63 degrees. Well, the opposite, actually 33 degrees. But and that's not opposite the way you think of it, but by opposite I mean if you're at 48 degrees latitude, then you need to add 15 degrees or subtract 15 degrees for your summer solstice or winter solstice to get your exact angle that you need your panels at. And I don't know, I might be losing people right now, but it's there's a lot to aiming that array to get maximum production. That's why I move my panels. So throughout the year, my ground mount panels, I tilt them and adjust them for different times a year. So I usually do it I used to do it almost religiously 4 times a year. Now I do it a couple times a year. Usually I'll do it for the winter setting. So I'll crank them up and stand them up fairly high for the winter setting. 63 degrees would be actually good. I can do more than that, get them closer to 90 degrees. The snow sloughs off really well and it gets reflection off the snow. And then in the summer, I tilt them way back to about 33 degrees because the sun's way higher in the sky. So anyway, from that kind of standpoint, you got to really look at when you're going to get maximum production. Now, I will tell you this, I've gotten over 100% on my panels. My array is a 615 watt array. And I think the highest I've seen is like 672 watts coming out of that array. Oh yeah. 125% with snow, vertical, 550 to 730 watts. Are those bifacial panels? But it doesn't, even if they weren't, it doesn't matter. My poly panels will definitely do, considerably better production in the wintertime, right? I mean, you get less sun, but boy, they produce more power. One, because even poly panels are going to get reflection off of the snow and they're cold. And when they're cold, they're way more efficient. Over panel. Okay. Funny thing about that is I did a couple of videos that were like controversial for the off-grid world because I'm like, I don't know over panel off-grid. And a lot of guys are like, what are you thinking? Of course you do. You'll get more power. And I'm like, no, you won't. You'll get more power if you don't add a second charge controller. But if you add a second charge controller, then you'll get even more power, right? So I'll have to do that, over paneling power stations, because I will over panel power stations all day long. Websites that you can enter your zip code and get the perfect angles for your panel tilts for every month. Yes, I used to do that actually years and years ago, but then you just know, like, the simple math is 15 degrees from from your location. Basically, you take your latitude, you set that up. This is where I'm at, and then you add or subtract 15 degrees depending on the time of year, right? So spring and summer, you leave the latitude the same, or the percent, like if I'm at 48 degrees. So I set 48 degrees for spring and fall, and then in the summer you take away 15 degrees, and in the winter you add 15 degrees. The simple way to do it, and the best way to do it is to put as much solar as you can. Bifacial 465 hits 570. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'd love some bifacial panels, buddy. Absolutely would love some. That probably would be my next deal. I could do a deal with Signature Solar, but I'd have to buy 10 panels, and I go back and forth because I could use them. I mean, you could always use more panels. I would just want to use them here on my shop here. Some of them, maybe half of them or something like that. But I'd love to put some, even just 2 bifacial 500 watt panels up at the cabin would be fantastic. Straight vertical, put them behind the cabin, catch the morning and the evening sun and reflection all day long. Be awesome. All right, guys, I think it's time to call it a night. 2 hours, 20 minutes. It was fun. I will do it again. Probably, I don't know. We'll see. Probably in a couple of weeks, but we'll see. It depends. I used to try to do them more frequently, and my problem is I'm normally gone on weekends up at the cabin. So we'll see, but I'll definitely put out something for you and let you know, and we'll see you next time. So thanks for watching. Had a good time. Lots of good questions. Don't forget to ask questions in my videos, because yes, I will answer them. All right, folks, have a good night. See you later.